Hey, Jody, how are you?
I'm fine.
Rachel, good seeing you again.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for giving me the 10 minutes. I know you're super busy.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Yeah. First, to kind of start off with, just so I can make this more specific, I want to confirm you guys have 8 employees.
We
Is
do.
that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Just going to get all my stuff out here.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff.
I'm moving in. Just moving in.
All right. Then
Okay.
we have 9 employees.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's me.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the purpose of today is for us to figure out, does Aflac make sense for your employees, and
Okay.
do they deserve a chance to hear it?
Okay.
As I'm going through this is not about you.
Okay.
All right, it's about the guys out there that you have on their floor, and that's who I want you to think about kind of as I go through this. Tell me a little bit about what you know about Aflac.
I know it's some kind of insurance.
Okay.
I know it's not exactly like my P&C or something like that, but
Okay.
outside of that, I don't really know a lot, to be honest with you.
Good, no worries. Well, a lot of people know the duck, obviously. We started in 1955 in a little town south of Atlanta, Georgia. We were started by 3 brothers, the Amos brothers.
Mm-hmm.
The duck came along in 2000. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what we do and how we do it, but just know that we've been around for a long time,
Okay.
all right? We have more than 50 million policyholders worldwide. We've been in Japan for 35 years. We're down in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and then, of course, here in the United States. Our wheelhouse, Jody, is small business owners like yourself, all right? We kind of play in the 100 and under market. We play well with others in the bigger markets, but our wheelhouse are small business owners like yourself.
Right.
And we have more than 465,000 small business owners just like you that we work with in the United States.
Okay.
In 2010, we paid out $2.1 billion in claims. Our promise to your employees is that we promise to pay their claim in 4 days. And in just a minute, you're going to see why that's so important.
Okay.
All right, so tell me a little bit about you guys. In the past, I know you've been in business for 10 years.
Yes.
The past 5 years, kind of tell me how a little bit the business has changed maybe.
Well, our climate has changed
Okay.
in that we were hovering around 15.
Okay.
Before, and now we're down to 8,
Okay.
as you notice. Now, that's kind of plateaued a little bit,
Okay.
and we don't foresee having to make any more cuts or changes, but we're trying to be very cautious with adding. We
Okay.
just don't want to be in that same position ever again where we
Yeah.
had a downsize. So
Okay.
we are kind of getting close to the position where we can start to hire again, but we
Okay.
just want to be cautious with it.
Okay. And I definitely don't want you to feel interrogated. I'm going to ask you a
Okay.
lot of questions, but it's really just for me to kind of determine if Aflac really is a good fit for the company.
Okay.
The 8 employees, are they full-time, part-time?
All full-time.
Okay. And are most of them married, single?
Kind of a mix, but I'd say we lean a little bit more towards the married, has
Okay.
families, and I got probably about 3 or 4 single guys.
Okay. And-
Mostly all guys.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Are they? Okay, so mostly
one female, all
males.
the rest of them.
And what's the average age, would you say?
We are in the late 20s to mid 30s.
Okay. All
I'm
right.
the old guy,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Old guy.
Yeah,
Jody.
old guy.
Got
Jody,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
If cost was not a factor for you at all,
Okay.
I mean, it's not even in play. Well, tell me what your ideal benefits package would look like.
It's hard to even fathom.
Okay.
No cost.
Right.
Ideal benefits package. Well, I'd like to make sure that it was something that I would feel comfortable and confident that if my guys had to use it,
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't going to have to hear about it the next day on how much it still cost them.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I know with some of the benefits we've had in the past, and we've always been making changes, but you can really tell which ones are better than the others based on the complaints that I would get after the fact of them
Okay.
utilizing it. They don't know anything about it until all of a sudden they have to need it.
Right.
So that would probably be it. If cost wasn't an issue, I'd want one that I could feel completely confident that they were going to be able to use.
And would that include dental, vision, vacation time? Would it include everything, or is there one specific thing more that you're looking for?
Not so much dental.
Okay.
I hadn't really thought much about that one. More of like just any kind of sickness, injury, any kind of health issue. If they had to go in and utilize it, I wasn't going to get a backlash or
Hear
lip
about
service
it.
on it.
Let me ask you about the dental. You said no dental. Is that because you haven't thought about it, or because you haven't been asked about it?
Probably because I haven't been asked about
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the main thing.
So there could be a need. You're just maybe not
Could be,
familiar
but
with it.
the
Okay.
guys haven't really brought it up.
Okay. All right. And then tell me about your vacation time, your sick time.
They all get 2 weeks,
Okay.
and it's just all clumped into one.
Okay. So it's PTO.
Yeah, we don't really specify it. We don't normally have a problem with it. Everybody's been here for a while.
Okay.
If they use it, I know they're using it for the right. But so we just still put it into PTO just to keep things simple.
Okay, so it's 2 weeks if they're here one day, or if they're here 20 years, it's still 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks.
Okay, and then tell me what programs you have in place for 2 weeks in 1 day, 2 weeks in 3 days, 2 weeks in 5 days, if something were to happen there.
On the job?
Either on the job, off the job, sickness, injury, you name
Well,
it.
if it was on the job, which we do have sometimes because we're more or less manufacturing, we're a lot more physical.
Okay.
Workman's comp,
Okay.
obviously.
Yeah.
Outside of workman's comp, if it happened outside of here, there's nothing that we have in play.
Okay. And how many of your employees would you be willing to pay, let's say if they walked in the store and something big happened and they say, listen, I need to advance on my paycheck 6 weeks, or I need to take 8 weeks off. How many of them out of the 8 people, would you be willing to pay?
I'd be willing to do it for any, but I can't.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay.
I really care that much about them. I'd love to, but we run so close on our margins here and everything else, and that's why we kept the 8 that we kept when we did. So it would be a tough position. I don't feel comfortable that I'd be able to do it for any of them.
Okay. And then your workers' comp, tell me about utilization for that. How's the claims been for that for the past 5 years?
Moderate for our industry. Our rates haven't really jumped on us, which is usually about as technical as I get on whether we're doing well or doing bad.
Okay.
If our rates start going up, something's not right.
Right.
But if our rates are staying pretty stable, then I feel like we're probably comfortable, given that we're going to have some. But nothing really severe, nothing really bad, just little things here or there.
Perfect. Well, great. That kind of helps me know a little bit. And just so I can, a few more questions. Tell me about the healthcare that you guys have in place.
We have a HMO.
Okay.
We have an HMO. I think it's a $2,000 deductible.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think the network's okay. I haven't heard a lot of complaining about the network.
Okay.
I think it's 70-30.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for that information. So kind of continuing on with my little booklet here. The main thing that I want you to know is that it does not cost the company anything to offer. All right, zero, not a zilch. We're going to talk about affordability in just a second, but know that it's 100% employee funded. All right, there's absolutely benefits for owners who choose to offer this, but just know from a cost standpoint, it does not cost the company anything to offer.
Okay.
All right. There we go.
Okay.
All right. 4 reasons why small business owners like yourself choose to go with Aflac. Number 1, it fits with any other benefits that the employees may have. You just mentioned that you guys have a $2,000 deductible, 70-30. I'm going to go into just a minute and how it fits in. But know that I'm not looking to change anything that you have, and it fits with any other benefits that the employees may or may not have.
Okay.
Number 2, it's very easy to administer. Number 3, this is a big one. It really helps attract and retain quality employees.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our plans, employees can only get by a business owner such as yourself, allowing us to offer them. If they were to call us directly up off the street, most of them are not available, and the ones that are, the rates are about 40% higher, all right? But most importantly, it's insurance that people want, that they need, all right? So let's say that one of your guys out there gets sick or injured, either one. There's a couple of different areas of financial impact that they're going to feel. The first one, their copays and their deductibles. You just told me that they've got to write a check for $2,000,
right?
All right? And I'm not sure how many of them could do that. You may know that a little bit better than I do, but $2,000 is a lot, all right? A lot of times we see that, let's say that they have to go outside of network. You mentioned that you're an HMO. If they have to go outside of network to seek treatment, maybe to see a specialist, maybe they have to get a referral. You know, a lot of times maybe it may not be 70-30, it might go down to 50-50. And now the employees are left with more out-of-pocket expenses. A lot of times we see if they're really sick or really injured and they actually have to take time off of work, well, now they're missing a paycheck. And you just mentioned that you had 2 weeks, but if they're out 3 weeks and they're out 4 weeks and they're out 5 weeks, that's big for employees. And a lot of times we see a double loss of income, which is if one of your employees is really sick or really injured and their spouse or significant other has to take off to take care of them, well, now they're missing their paycheck and they're missing the spouse's paycheck as well.
Right.
And then there's the things that just keep coming, whether they're here on your floor or not. They still got to put gas in the car. They still got to pay their mortgage. They still have to put food on their kids' table, transportation, obviously. And so when I sit down with employees and I ask, listen, where would you go to cover these things? I hear 4 common answers every time. Number 1, I'm going to go to the bank and try to take out a loan. You as a business owner, you know that that is not feasible. I'm going to go to my savings, but 80% of people in this country live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, and 65% have less than $1,000 in the bank. So when I said at the beginning, I didn't want you to think about you. I wanted you to think about your guys. Your guys are the ones that are living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, and your guys are the ones that have less than $1,000 in the bank. I hear a lot of times my family and my friends, but if this were me, my mom would give me a warm place to stay and a meal, but they couldn't help provide with my out-of-pocket expenses. And the number one answer that I hear every time is I'm going to go to my owner and I'm going to ask for an advance on my paycheck, or if I can have a salary loan. And you just mentioned to me, you can't do that. You're not in the banking industry. You're in a manufacturing industry. You opened up a manufacturing shop, not a bank. And the problem with this is when they come to you, number one, they expect you to do it, right? An employee just automatically thinks that. But number two, then you're having to justify, well, should I do it for this one and then this one, right? And then you can't really do that because the employees talk,
right.
All right? So the whole premise of AFLAC is that we pay cash directly to the employees based on a sickness or an injury. And however that employee needs to use the money, that's how they use the money. If one employee needs to use it to pay the rent, go for it. But if one employee needs to use it to replace their paycheck because they were out the 3 weeks or the 4 weeks or the 5 weeks, they could use it for that as well. It takes you out of the equation. So we help protect their income. We supplement that medical plan, that $2,000 deductible. We really help supplement that they already have. We help cover expenses for everyday living because they don't have another place to turn for that. But more importantly, we help protect what's theirs. They're here working for a paycheck, and they are maybe one event away, one sickness, one injury away from something major happening, and they could be behind on their rent or they could be behind on daycare. Any questions so far?
No, not particularly, other than kind of like what's my involvement, what's the next step, how do we go about, how do they find out about it?
Great question. I was just about to go there. I will mention affordability, and when we talk about that, the plans range anywhere between $5 to $10 a week. It usually ends up being right at about a half an hourly wage a week. So when I talk to the employees, I let them know it's like you're working 40 hours a week, but you're getting paid for 39 and a half.
Right.
So that's typically the cost there. But when we talk about the 3 steps to get started, I'm going to hone in on number 2. This is my job, educating the employees. It is my job to educate the employees, inform the employees, create interest for the employees. Your sole job as the owner is to say, absolutely, I think this is a great fit, and then I take over from there.
Okay.
All right? In the event that they have a question for you, your job is to say, call Rachel. She does AFLAC. And I'll be honest with you, as long as you do manufacturing and I do AFLAC, you and I have a great relationship. But if I came in here and I'm saying, listen, Jody, I know you've been in business for 10 years, but I got some fantastic ideas for this manufacturing shop. You would say, well, hold on a minute. I'm doing the manufacturing, and it's the same way with AFLAC. So as long as you do the manufacturing and I do AFLAC, you and I have a beautiful relationship. So that's key. Let me ask you a question. Do you guys ever have staff meetings or safety meetings?
Once a month.
Perfect.
Safety.
Great. And is it usually at the end of the month or the beginning of the month?
We usually do it at the beginning of the month.
Perfect. So what I typically do is I come in at the last 10 minutes of the meeting. I go over the programs. It's a 10-minute meeting, very similar to this, but I describe it in a little different way for the employees. After that, step number 3 is I stay a little while for the one-on-one. That allows them to really ask me individual questions that I can't take in a group setting. Hey, I have high blood pressure. Hey, I have diabetes. Hey, I'm thinking about having a baby. All these things that, again, I cannot take in a group setting, but it allows me to ask, answer their questions that they may ask. What day is that meeting? I know we're coming up on the end of December. What day is that meeting for you guys?
We do it on the first Tuesday of every month.
Perfect. All right. So the first Tuesday in January, and what time is your meeting typically?
It runs from 8 to 8:45, give or take.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I'll be here about 8 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm just going to stand at the back of the room. I'll even sit outside if you want me to. You can kind of poke your head out and get me the last 10 minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
I wouldn't tell anybody that I'm coming. All right. A lot of times people have preconceived notions about AFLAC, or maybe they think we're car insurance or homeowners insurance, and similar to yourself, they just have no idea what we do.
Okay.
So I'll be here for that. I did bring you some preliminary information. I wouldn't pass this out. This is kind of owner information. But when you look in here, it's really going to kind of go over basically what I just said. There's no cost to the business. It really helps attract and retain quality employees. But other than that, we are all set. Thank you so much for your 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Well, all this sounds really good, and really, I just want to make sure that there'd be an interest level before we kind of move forward and put you on the meeting and all that stuff, because I wouldn't want you to come in if there's no interest level. So this certainly sounds good. Let me kind of poke around and find out if it makes sense, and then I'll certainly get you set up on that one in January.
Okay. I definitely appreciate your help. You're asking to help me. I'm positive you've never wanted to sell insurance.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, if you poll 10 people, 10 out of 10 they're never going to say they want more insurance and money taken out of their check. Very similar to you. Employees, they're very unfamiliar with Aflac. They see the duck commercial, but they really don't know the ins and outs. My recommendation is that I still come for the last 10 minutes. Listen, if it wastes my time, we will shake hands, part ways, and send each other holiday cards. But at least I know that I've given them the information. My other fear is if you do ask them questions or you do say, hey, is anybody interested in Aflac? If they come to you and they ask a question and you don't know the answer to it, well, now you're coming back to me to get the answer and then going back to the employee, and I'm disrupting your business, which is not my intent at all. So I would still say let's stick for the first Tuesday of that month. Let me do the 10 minutes. And like I said, if it doesn't work, we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.